Throughout human history, cities have been a focal point of human achievement and development, but some cities have flourished and others have not. And a lot of times you may wonder, why is a city in a certain location? And you'll find that there are reasons why cities are founded where they are and why some have been more successful than others. One of the most common reasons for a city to be founded in a certain spot would be geographical. Whether there's something in that area that made it successful. For example, you have the Black Sea right here, and you have the Mediterranean Sea over here. And these bodies of water come together right here, and there's the Sea of Marmara, and a city was founded right there. And as Rome declined as a power 1,500 years ago, this city began to flourish. And the city at the time was originally Byzantium, then it became Constantinople. Today it's Istanbul. And a key reason for why this was such an important city is because it was right here between two major bodies of water, which was a source of trade, and people migrating through. They all came through Istanbul, and so it was able to control a lot of area, and it was a very key location. So geography is one of the key reasons that you have successful cities that are founded, and that can be for a choke point. You can have a geographical, it can be a choke point. For example, right there, where you have two bodies of water and they come together. It can be a trade route, which to some extent is the same thing, but it talks about the flow of goods. There may be an important resource center on one side, and it all has to flow through a certain location, or an area that may not have any resources, so to speak of. There's some spots in the Middle East, but in human history, trade goods coming from the east and trade goods coming from the west, they had to cross through certain locations, and a city could flourish there as a trade route. What are some other reasons that cities would flourish?
They're near natural resources?
Near natural resources, and that again ties into geography. You might have a city that's founded near an oil field or a diamond mine, and it might flourish as people rush to that area. California flourished during the gold rush as people came there for those resources. And so resources are very key. And part of the resources, another one, would be regarding to transportation. And what that can refer to is, again, as we saw with Istanbul, its location, it allowed people to quickly move across those bodies of water. Or if you consider Chicago, and you have Lake Michigan, and there's Chicago right there. And all the goods coming from the center of the U.S., there are rail tracks coming into Chicago. And so it was very easy to send things to Chicago, and then from there, it could go out by sea and through the St. Lawrence Seaway into the Atlantic, and it was a way for resources, whether that's agricultural or minerals, that wanted to be shipped to other places, could all flow into Chicago and then go out by sea. And so, to some extent, Chicago is that was man-made with all of the rail lines, and you can also consider even with interstates, and there's other towns that interstates pass by that don't flourish as well, or railroads. During the 1800s, a city that got the railroad to come through there would have much more economic success than another city. So it can be either man-made or natural transportation, as we saw in the case of a city that might be on a seaport and has access to rivers or the world's oceans. What are some other things?
A center of industry?
Industry. And so opportunities for people to make a living. As we've seen throughout human history, Originally, everyone was out on a farm and just subsistence farming, just able to make enough food. But with time, better technology, better seeds, better understanding of horticulture, people were able to have more success in agriculture with fewer people. And what that did is that freed up people to move into cities and become artisans and merchants and to do other things other than just make enough food so that they can feed their families over the next week or the next month. And so industry would provide jobs. And then during the Industrial Revolution, we had factories that were developed in cities, and people would move to those cities. They may not be needed on a farm, but the factories were hungry for manpower and for labor, and people would move to cities to find jobs. What else?
Good climate?
A good climate. You know, a lot of times people might not have had that luxury in the past, but as you can see, a lot of people that have maybe moved from northern climates that are colder, with air conditioning, the invention of air conditioning has completely changed hotter climates and made them much more tolerable and pleasant during the hot summer months. And people with the freedom to relocate may choose to relocate to an area that has good climate if they have the flexibility to earn a living in either location. What else?
Available space?
Available space. You know, sometimes you don't think about it, but a city that's built on a plain that can grow in every direction is going to have a much easier time than a city that's like all hemmed in. Picture an area where you have all these mountain ranges and you've got a city right here in the middle. Well, where's that city going to grow? It keeps butting up against all these mountains. And so, I mean, maybe you have a house up here on the mountain, but you can't go beyond that. But now picture a city that's built on a flat plain, and as it grows, it can just grow in either direction, any way you want to go. That city can expand, and so there's lots of opportunities for new houses, new factories, new areas of development, and there's not this geographical constraint. And so for the first inhabitants, this may be an ideal location, but once it starts to grow, it starts to get compacted. People have to start living in higher elevations or multi-story buildings, and it's much cheaper and easier to build on a plain and to expand there. What else?
Immigrants?
Immigration. You talk about human demographics. You know, a city, if you think about it in early American history, where people were moving into the eastern seaboard and they were immigrating to the United States from Europe and other places. And those eastern seaboard cities, they grew because of this mass influx of immigration. Or you may think of a city where industry has left it and now everybody is leaving it. And that would be an example of a city that was failing as more people are leaving than are coming in because perhaps industry has left or people are choosing a different climate.
Or Detroit?
Exactly. Or something else has occurred. You know, maybe here, if a city grew because there was a rail station there, and now with the advent of the interstate system, there's less of a need for rail transportation. There's going to be less of a need for industry in those locations. So, as you can see, there are a lot of different things, and many times it's not just one thing, but multiple of these points here that contribute to the success of cities and why some cities flourish and you'll see some cities that don't. And this is why.